Um, Body, I think that we should reject the agree to disagree motion, and we should continue on. I see that we're speed running this trial once again. We sent it back to committee. We just blasted through it in committee as of like half an hour ago, and suddenly we have the agree to disagree motion right up here. Too soon to even go through a caucus and or a calendar or agenda to actually discuss the issue or what's on it. No one's seen the amendment. You want to talk about the amendment? The amendment is one that the carrier of this motion says will satisfy all concerns for everybody that had issues. What she is talking about potentially are people within the 2-hour closed door caucus or calendar that you had, but it's not. But the fact is, that's not the case. It doesn't. I've looked at the questions of what are the concerns of some of the opponents and what are their recommended fixes. And if you look at the definitions that are in here and the amendments that have come on, it doesn't even come close to addressing it. If you were to ask any of the opponents, and you can't because we did this so quickly, it's come up here so quickly, you probably haven't had the chance to talk to the opponents, but I have. They're all still opponents to this bill. All of them. The amendment didn't fix anything. Our conference committee didn't fix anything. The same problems we had yesterday, we have today. I think that I would love to see an interim committee. That's what we've been going for weeks now. This is a complex issue. Let's deal with this in an interim committee. In the meantime, let us reject the agree to disagree. It will send it back to conference where we have to have unanimous support to get it back out of conference. And if that doesn't happen, we can take it to an interim committee during the summertime. So please vote no. Thank you.
Representative Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The previous speaker up here did a great job explaining what's been going on. We first, as you know, had this bill in House Fed and State. We worked on it for a really long time, and you all have seen us go through the process. We have done our due diligence. Those of us in the opposition have done our due diligence to try to satisfy individuals who are supporters of this. But we have not been able to come to a compromise because this bill is so ripe with issues. We cannot satisfy any of the parties on either side. There are so many complicated things that go on between app stores and consumers, parents, so on, so forth. And we are talking about data privacy. We're talking about security issues. We are talking about aspects of tech that I don't even understand, and I try to follow along with that pretty well. This has gotten way out of control. There is a reason why those of us who are opposed are opposed. It's not because we don't want to protect our kids. What it is because this has gone too far, too fast, without enough discussion, without having all of the stakeholders present at the table and letting us know what we can do to get to a compromise. So please, I urge you, if you have been in opposition to this, stay in opposition to this, vote no to the agree to disagree. Thank you.
Representative Schmoy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okay, conservatives, digital ID. Have you guys heard of digital ID? Have you been following along with that? It is a dangerous territory for us to be getting into. The fact that we're discussing that within the App Store is really concerning, especially since we have zero information on that. I would actually support them sending it back to the conference committee so that they can have more information, so that we can have more information, so that we can actually have calendar on it and discuss what is happening here with digital ID and the App Store bill. Please support sending it back so that we can have more information. Oh, it's a vote no. So honestly, guys, this is really something that we need more information on before you're making a decision. I implore you to vote no. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is just a motion to agree to disagree. And with that, I close.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Noes appear to have it. It's been called. The clerk will open the roll. Went down. Hold on. You can still push your buttons. The roll is still open. Has every member had the opportunity to record their vote? The clerk will close the roll. It is a tie vote. The motion fails. The Speaker recognizes Representative Humphreys for a motion to adopt the Agree to Disagree report on Senate Bill 462.
Senate Bill 462 is a combination of Senate Bill 462, which talks about public nuisance, which you heard about, and Senate Bill 463 that has to do with criminal profiteering. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt the Agree to Disagree Conference Committee report and that a new conference committee be appointed.
Representative Osman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So 462 involved two different bills. One was 463, which we could consider the people. It's called criminal profiteering, but basically as well, it'd be things like stealing from yards and trespassing of that nature. That was fine. We fixed it in committee. It's fine. But the public nuisance is a huge problem. That's 462. It passed 84-40 on the House floor. It passed 29-11 in the Senate. Public nuisance is going to be a huge concern if we pass this for all municipalities, all counties. It's going to cost the state of Kansas millions upon millions of dollars. This is a guarantee. That is why I am against it. And by the way, let's just keep the streak going. Vote no. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, Representative, you may close.
I close.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion passes. The Speaker appoints Representatives Humphreys, Laura Williams, and Osmond as conferees on part of the House. The Speaker recognizes Representative Awerkamp for a motion to adopt the Conference Committee report on House Bill 2000.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 2004 was kind of a shell carried over from last year. I think the Senate inserted language to require DCF and KDHE to comply with requests from the federal government for data. In conference committee, we amended that a little bit to clarify that it's only when the federal government asks DCF or KDHE for data that pertains to programs that these state agencies implement. Only in those situations do they have to comply by statute. And then also we removed the language that stated, quote, without condition or limitations, end quote. There was some concern about that. And we also changed the 30-day requirement to comply to 60 days. And then after that, we also added the contents of House Bill 2731. This passed the chamber here earlier this year. That added the guidelines and timeline for DCF to work with the Office of Inspector General with regards to exchanging information to assist in the investigation of welfare fraud. Last year, we passed a bill allowing the Office of Inspector General to investigate fraud when programs that DCF administers. Now, I believe we're going to be funding those positions, and so this will help the Office of Inspector General be more effective with those positions. So, Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt the conference committee report.
Representative Owsley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Chairman, for the explanation. Just one question for the carrier. USDA and Kansas DCF have a memorandum of understanding at this point, don't they?
Can you repeat the question?
The USDA and Kansas Department of Children and Families have a memorandum of understanding as far as information exchange that's addressed in this bill.
Yeah, I think the bill does ask them to enter into that memorandum when the federal government does request information, so they have to work out the details, yes.
And then the OIG and KDHE and DCF currently work together when they're investigating fraud. If the OIG finds something, that they have the right to investigate it, and if KDHE finds something outside of the norm, they report it to the OIG for further investigation.
In theory, yes, but I think the Office of Inspector General did say this language would help give him a little bit more influence on getting that information more thoroughly and quickly, and I think it will help him do his job better, as he mentioned in committee.
And then if you'd entertain one more, do you recall a fiscal note on this CCR?
I don't believe there is a fiscal note on the CCR, and I don't really see where that fiscal note would have a significant impact. This is just supplying data, which ultimately people arrange data very frequently. It shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Thank you, Chairman, for answering those questions. I guess the fiscal impact would come within the budget that is now on our desks and the funding of the, I believe, 6 FTEs within the OIG department. And outside of that, I don't see a need for this bill. All of this was able to be taken care of outside of a House bill. I did not sign the conference committee report, and I urge you not to support the conference committee on HB 2004. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had a couple questions for the carrier, if you don't mind. I'll be nice. I do miss being on the committee with you, by the way. Okay, so I had some concerns about this. This is primarily related to fraud detection in a lot of ways, correct? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, it's with the data, it does help to understand who's getting the benefits and it does help with the investigations, yes.
Okay. And can you tell me, I can't recall, but I feel like last session or the session before that, we had also allocated some FTEs to the OIG's office for this as well. Is that correct, or am I remembering wrong?
I think they were allocated, they just weren't funded because it was kind of a new bill. But this year, I believe in appropriations, they are funding some positions to help the OIG office investigate fraud.
Can you recall how many then in total FTEs the OIG's office would receive, including the unfunded ones from the previous session and these ones? Now, this looks about 10, is that correct? But what would the one previously be?
I've heard different numbers as far as what the appropriations bill has in it as far as funding positions in the OIG office. I believe it's under 10, somewhere between 6 and 9 from what I've heard earlier, but that may have changed.
Not 6, 7? Just kidding. Oh, I know. Come on, it's late. We have to have a little fun. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Come on, you guys. Okay, so obviously I am rising in opposition to this bill. I think it's pretty clear that when stuff like this comes out, I have some concerns, but my biggest concerns here are with the fiscal note, with the unfunded FTE requests. And also, we've heard numerous times, not only in Welfare Reform Committee, but in other committees and interim committees that fraud has gone down so much in these programs. And the DCF is already doing a damn fine job of making sure that they can find fraud and do something about it. I can't remember the exact numbers, and I don't want to share numbers that aren't real up here. But when we were doing this last session and having discussions about this, I remember thinking, wow, there really isn't a lot of fraud. Yet at the same time, I think it was something like 3%, 2%, something like that with the SNAP program. But that might not be right, but seems pretty close. And I know I'm not sounding quite right up here because it's like, what, 10 o'clock? But what I'm saying here is that the Office of the Attorney General does not need more unfunded FTEs in order to go after fraud which does not exist at a substantial enough level to be giving them millions of dollars in FTEs. I mean, some of these fiscal notes from each of the bills that were put in here, one is like 1.1 million, 1.4 million, 730,000. This is a lot to go after something that we aren't even spending that much on as a state out of our general fund. So there's a lot of questions that I have about this still, a lot of non-answers. In my time spent on the Welfare Reform Committee and the Health Committee and just in my daily life and my job, I can't see any real reason to be spending this much money on going after fraud that doesn't exist. So I would please ask you to not adopt the CCR. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, you may close.
Mr. Speaker, data is important. We're dealing with a lot of dollars and we have rules that people have to comply with. This transfer of data and having the agencies work together will help understand how to best use taxpayer dollars and will help eliminate fraud. With that, Mr. Speaker, I close.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2004. The clerk will open the roll. You may record your vote. Has every member had the opportunity to record their vote? The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? For an explanation, the speaker recognizes Representative Carr. Speaker's excused. And Representative Smith is excused.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I vote no. That actual number is less than 3%. The fact that we say that we're in this budget cutting mode, and yet we're going to approve several $1,000,000 to pay for FTEs in the Office of the Inspector General Department is just not good. We're not being good stewards of the state's finances at that point. The amount that we're paying in FTEs exceeds the amount of what the so-called fraud is, which again, it's less than 3%. It was 2% and some change, and because of that, I vote no.
Any further explanation of votes? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Representative Turk votes aye. Any further changes? Seeing none. Seeing none, with 84 having voted in favor and 37 against the passage of House Bill 2004, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. Clerk will record the vote. Messages from the Senate, the clerk will read.
The Senate adopts the conference committee report to agree to disagree on H sub for sub SB 197 and has appointed Senators Alley, Owens, and Faust-Cadeau as second conferees on the part of the Senate. The Senate adopts the conference committee report to agree to disagree on SB 361 and has appointed Senators Erickson, Thomas, and Sykes as second conferees on the part of the Senate. The Senate adopts the conference committee report on HB 2042, 2114, 2116, 2365, 2479, and 2601.
Are there announcements? Seeing none. Representative Tarwater.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Attention commerce fans. I am here to announce a meeting tomorrow at 582 North at 10 o'clock to talk about SB 229 with the Senate Commerce. Thank you.
Representative Stogsdill.
Democrats, we will have agenda immediately following recess, and we're going to be, one of the bills we're going to be doing is the budget. So be prepared. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Seeing no further announcements, the speaker recognizes the majority leader for a motion to recess.
Okay, on your desk, you have the budget. So make sure you take your packets with you. Republicans, we will calendar immediately upon recess. Mr. Speaker, I move the House stand in recess until 11 p.m. or 2300.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. We're in recess. The House will come to order. Messages from the Senate, the clerk will read.
The Senate adopts a conference committee report to agree to disagree on HB 2521 and has appointed Senators Warren, Titus, and Corson as second conferees on the part of the Senate. The Senate adopts a conference committee report to agree to disagree on HB 2651 and has appointed Senators Warren, Titus, and Corson as second conferees on the part of the Senate. The Senate concurs in House amendments to SB 390A and requests return of bill. The Senate concurs House amendments SB 408, requests return of bill. The Senate concurs in House amendments to SB 480 and requests return of bill. The Senate adopts a conference committee report on HB 2372, 2462, 2509, and 2513.
The Speaker recognizes Representative Humphreys for a motion to concur in conference on House Bill 2652.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 2652 was the bill that we had. It passed the House 80 to 36, and it had to do with the reporting of the appellate courts. They needed to publish a monthly list of all the appeal cases in which the decisions have not been entered yet. The Senate changed the effective date from the statute book to the Kansas Register, and that seemed like a good change, so we are concurring in conference. Mr. Speaker, I move that the House concurs in Senate amendments to House Bill 2652, which is in conference, and I'll stand for questions.
For discussion, Representative Osman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Caucus, I did forget one thing that they amended in the as we did the conference committee. It's that the reason that we're concurring is because we're changing the date of effectiveness from the normal amount of July 1st of 2026 to the Kansas Register. Kansas Register could be 2 weeks from now, whenever we pass this into law. That's very strange. That is not something you normally do unless for some reason you really, really, really need this information immediately. I don't think we really, really, really need this information immediately. I think that this is an unnecessary bill overburdening the government. I would vote no. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will just remind you, this is not requiring the appellate courts to do anything. It is just asking them to publish a list of the cases that have not been decided yet, so people know where their case is. It is about transparency. It's about reporting once a month. Where are their cases? And it seemed good to go ahead and get that started now, because there are people who have cases going on with our appellate courts and they're not sure where things are at with those. So this is it's a good change. It's a good bill. I encourage you to vote yes on it. And with that, I close.
As a reminder, if the motion fails, the bill will remain in conference. This constitutes final action on House Bill 2652. The clerk will open the roll. You may record your vote. Has every member had the opportunity to record their vote? The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Representative Owsley is excused. Representative McDonald's excused. Representative Chauncey is excused. Members will be in their seats and they cannot talk to the people along the walls. Representative Sawyer Clayton votes no. Representative Meyer votes no. Representative Simmons votes no. Representative Turk votes aye. Representative Long votes aye. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on. Any further changes of votes? Seeing none, with 84 having voted in favor and 35 against. Representative Martinez votes no. Any further changes? Seeing none, with 83 having voted in favor and 36 against the passage of House Bill 2652, the same have received a constitutional majority. The bill is hereby declared passed. Clerk will record the vote. The Speaker recognizes Representative Humphreys for a motion to concur in conference on House Bill 2593.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 2593 was a bill that we had. It passed 77 to 45. It has to do with contingency fees for contracts for legal services in a political subdivision. So a municipality, a county, a city, and if it goes between jurisdictions, then the Attorney General has the opportunity to take over that. The political subdivision has to have an open meeting to discuss the contingency fee contract, and the Attorney General can refuse that if he believes the legal, or she believes the legal matter is more appropriate for state enforcement. So if it goes over jurisdictional lines, the Attorney General may decide that it is more appropriate for him to take over the case. The Senate removed some of the House amendments that we had, but they added a report and they added a sunset so that we can look and make sure how this is working out. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
For discussion, Representative Osmond.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Carrier of the bill did a great job explaining it. I will tell you as well, look, it passed 77 to 45. So for those of you that were the 45, this bill's not getting any better since the last time that you voted on it. There were 3 amendments to this bill. We didn't just remove some of what we did in the House. We removed all of the amendments that we did in the House. It does add a sunset, but it also, the accountability piece is effectively the AG writing a report every so often. That's the accountability piece that we've tried to add to this to sort of appease people. It's not doing anything. I could stand up here and rail against about local control. Local control, this is a local control issue, but that probably won't convince you. Here's the thing though. Every municipality is against this. I live in Overland Park. I've talked with Overland Park. They are against it. I guarantee you every municipality that you do live in, they're against this as well. Why are they against this? Number one, it's going to cost them money. Number two, it's going to cost them time. Number three, it's going to cost them opportunity. But at the basic level of it, it's really just saying to municipalities, we don't trust you to hire an attorney. If you don't trust your city to hire an attorney, what are they even doing? Why do you even allow them to be a municipality in the first place? Let's just take them over and let's just make all the decisions for them. This is a stupid bill. And I think that we should all unanimously come together and vote no. Thank you.
Representative, you may close, and please make a motion. I do not believe you did so in your first speech.
Okay, thank you so much. I move the House concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 2593, which is in conference. And I will close by saying that this has to do with legal cases that extend over different jurisdictions. This held within one subdivision of a political subdivision, one municipality, one county, stays there. If it goes over boundaries, it might be more appropriate for the Attorney General to do that because of that, and he can decide, or she can decide if that's true. And that's why this is a good bill, and I close.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2593. The clerk will open the roll. You may record your vote. Has every member had the opportunity to record their vote? The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Representative Mosher votes aye. Any further changes? Seeing none. With 79 having voted in favor and 40 against the passage of House Bill 2593, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. Clerk will record the vote. The Speaker recognizes Representative Kessler for a motion to concur in conference on House Bill 2018.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gotta get on my notes straightened out. I apologize. 2018 is a bill that was brought to us in committee that talks about religious freedoms, and it talks about interference with religious assembly. So it creates actually crimes against the interference of that. It defines a crime in a couple different ways. It defines it in the term of force used and also the terms of property damage. So they have that list in there as well. But that's basically what it does. You can't block, hurt, impede any type of a religious gathering. It doesn't define what religion you're talking about or where it's at. It doesn't have to be a sanctioned church, or it could be any place that a religious gathering takes place. With that, Mr. Speaker, I move that the House concur in Senate amendments to HB 2018, which is in conference.
For discussion, the Speaker recognizes Representative Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. The carrier did an excellent job of explaining this, actually, but I'd like to give you a little more explanation because I found this really interesting. So I concurred on this, which is not something a secular humanist might normally do, but I do strongly believe in the First Amendment. And so let's get into that a little bit. So The cool part about this is that when we were in conference committee, I said, okay, what does the conduct of religious assembly mean? Does that mean an individual who does it have to be in a church, a synagogue, a mosque, a temple? No, it doesn't. Because we can conduct religious assembly anywhere, especially under our First Amendment rights. So that got me wondering, well, would that mean that our friend with the Satanic Grotto, would he be able to come here to the Capitol to perform his ritual? Because in that aspect, a religious assembly can technically occur anywhere. I clarified that with the revisor and the ranking or the chair senator, and they both said, excuse me, I'm sorry. They both said that, yeah, that would actually include that. I said, okay, well, what about our pagan friends and our Wiccan friends who might want to do a binding ceremony to make sure that we here at the Capitol can't cause any more harm than we already do? Yeah, it includes that. I was like, okay, right on. I'm on board. Let's talk about this a little more. So, are you to tell me that if an individual, no matter how much you disagree with their religion or the type of assembly that they're practicing, they're protected no matter what? Yes. Okay. So if somebody was going to say desecrate a communion wafer, that's their right to religious assembly. Well, then, if you try to interfere with them at all, you could face up to $25,000 in civil suit. $25,000 for saying, you know what? I don't want you to desecrate that communion wafer here as part of your religious assembly. Well, guess what? This makes sure that they have the right. They can do it here on Capitol grounds. They can. Any place can be a part of your religious assembly. I was like, all right, I'm into it. Okay, let's keep going. So, I mean, it got me to thinking, well, so, you're telling me that literally we can go anywhere and do any religious assembly and we're protected. Awesome. Okay, well, then I asked, well, does this mean that an individual or individuals who are practicing their assembly, well, if part of their religion was to make sure that they protected immigrants, could they do that without fear of somebody coming in and harming them or creating, doing any misdemeanors, any physical obstruction, intimidation? Would they be able to? Well, yeah, they could do that. That's part of their right to religious assembly. One of my colleagues here brought up something really interesting, and I don't think I'm going to say it as eloquently, but I really love this idea too. So, talking about mail in voting, if we want to bring it back to that, what if my religion, and I can have any religion I want, right? Under this bill, absolutely. Under our First Amendment, yes. Okay. So, what if we had a church of elections, a church of voter protection? Yeah, you like this, right? So, our religious beliefs are that an individual should be allowed to practice their religion anytime they need to. Well, what if that includes the need for a mail in ballot? Okay, so here we go. We've got another answer to that problem. Some things we're solving with this bill today. I just want you to hear me. I concur. So mote it be.
Seeing no further discussion, Representative, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We really read two different documents there. I appreciate my ranking on there, but she really dived into that. But this is a pretty simple religious freedom. You can't block them. You can't hurt the people. Pretty simple stuff. With that, Mr. Speaker, I close.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2018. The clerk will open the roll. You may record your vote. Has every member had the opportunity to record their vote? The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Representative Helgerson votes aye. Sorry, Representative Helgeson votes no. Representative Simmons votes aye. Representative Weichel votes aye. Representative McDonald votes aye. Representative Martinez votes aye. Representative Stogsdill votes aye. Representative Curtis votes aye. Representative O'Habison votes aye. Representative Carlin votes aye. Representative Mosley votes no. Representative Ballard votes aye. Representative Weigel votes aye. Representative Vaughn votes no. Are there any other changes of votes? No? Okay. With 106 having voted in favor and 14 against the passage of House Bill 2018, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. The clerk will record the vote. Speaker recognizes Representative Getz for a motion to concur in conference on House Bill 2482.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 2482 went into conference because the Senate had made two changes around the college entrance exam bill. And what we were aiming to do is basically take out the naming of a certain company, which in this case was ACT and pre-ACT assessments, and make that more general terms to make the RFP process more neutral. In the Senate amendments that we did not get off, there was a what I would say downgrading of the level of science testing to a skill level instead of a knowledge level. So it's kind of an aggregated across the reading and math of how they're getting to a science grade is what this RFP process calls for. The State Board of Education can make it higher. They can request a test that has a separate science. The other thing is a nationally recognized career readiness assessment in the credentials. And so in that, there is another bill, 2530, that has that at a tiered level that I think applies to this, even though it doesn't state it here. It's in another section of statute that the state school board is going to utilize a tiered credentialing process. So that is also still in statute. But other than that, this is a fair RFP process for the State Board of Education to pick the right exams and assessments for our state and students. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I move that the House concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 2482, which is in conference, and I will stand for questions.
For discussion, the Speaker recognizes Representative Owsley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Chairman, for the explanation. I agree with the motion to concur to House Bill 2482.
No further discussion. Representative, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I close K-12 Budget Committee. Thanks for a great year ranking, Owsley and Vice Chair Brantley. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Members' names can't be used at the well. All right, this constitutes final action on House Bill 2482. The clerk will open the roll. You may record your vote. Has every member had the opportunity to record their vote? The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change his or her vote? Representative Brownlee Page votes aye. Any further changes? Seeing none. With 118 having voted in favor and 2 against the passage of House Bill 2482, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. Clerk will record the vote. The Speaker recognizes Representative Waymaster for a motion to adopt the Conference Committee Report on House Bill 2513.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 2513 started out as the Claims Against the State bill here in the House. And then in conference, this is our conference committee report for the overall budget for fiscal years 26, 27, and then also some aspects of fiscal year 28. I'd like to back up and go through some of the numbers that you may have had or may have questions on in regards to the sheets that were passed out a little over an hour ago. And so the budget that was passed out for fiscal year 2026 by the 2025 legislature was approximately $11.1 billion. There were changes made in either committee or with the Special Committee on Budget for fiscal year 2026, also with education and human caseloads. And so that made it change from 11.1 to 10.9 billion, which was about a $246 million reduction. That was approved by the 2025 legislative session. Right now, House Bill 2513 is even below that. In conference, we have a state general fund dollar amount of about $10.7 billion, and an ending balance in fiscal year 27 is still $1.7 billion SGF. So really what that means is what was approved by the 2025 legislature is approximately a $348 million reduction below the approved amount for fiscal year 2026. And that is then $180 million less than from the new approved amount for fiscal year 2026. So I'll just go through some of the items that are in House Bill 2513. First, we have the $15 per resident per day. That's about approximately 18.9 million. Originally in House Bill 2434, we were at 10, which had approximately a $14 million SGF cost. The Senate itself was at 20 with a $29 million cost, so we met in the middle. We took the Senate position in regards to CHIP at $15 as SGF, 15 million, excuse me, SGF. We also had the intellectually developmentally disabled waiver services. We kind of also met in the middle of this. We had 3%. The Senate had 10. We met at 6% reimbursement rate for providers, and that's about 16 million SGF. Contract staffing for fiscal year 2026 in regards to Larned State Hospital and Osawatomie State Hospital. That is about $39.2 million state general fund. One of the items that the Senate took, we've been working on this item for quite some time, so I'm kind of glad that the chairperson from the House Agricultural and Natural Resources Budget Committee kind of finally figured a plan out in regards to the dairy barn at Kansas State University. She had discussed this with the interest holders, K-State themselves, and then also those of us here in the legislature. And so we're committing $5 million over 3 years, each entity is. And basically the Senate took our position on that because they didn't have one. Water is fully funded with the various categories and also agencies. In fiscal year 2026, for K through 12 education, after the November consensus revenue came out, we adopted the new education caseloads, and that's approximately 6.3 billion SGF for K through 12 education. We also increased the pay for teachers and for the School of the Blind and the Schools for the Deaf. We have $20.7 million for technical and community colleges, $5 million that's going to be invested in Alzheimer's research at KU Medical Center, $5 million for nuclear research at Kansas State University, $6 million, all from the American Rescue Plan Act money for moderate income housing. And then we have, I believe I talked about this when we had House Bill 2434, and actually we had to have some clarifying. We actually took the Senate position because in our bill, it only transferred the interest if the balance of the budget stabilization fund is 20% of the receipts, the tax receipts. The intent was to have that carry over each year. And so we took the Senate position on that. Overall, I think the House did very well in conference committee. We had 36 side-by-side pages, which in my tenure as appropriations chair. I think that's the largest amount of pages that we had to go through. But we had most of the positions, and the Senate took most of our positions, and then we took a few of the Senate's. So if you look at the ending balance for what the conference committee had decided for fiscal year 2027, as I mentioned before, that's a $1.7 billion ending balance. And then even in fiscal year 2030, we have just shy of $500 million ending balance, but things can change, as we all know, and adjustments can be made, and those are just estimates, so we will see what happens. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I would move the adoption of the conference committee report for House Bill 2513, and I'll stand for questions.
Representative Ballard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The chairman did an outstanding job explaining HB 2513. And I think most of you know we went through 11 rounds, spending more than, I would say, 20 hours in conference, being here until 12:45 a.m. Monday night. Then we came back Tuesday morning and we finished up. There was a lot of work to do, and I have to really thank the chair and the vice chair for it. We had fun in the process, though it was draining in many ways. There are many good things, as you heard, that are in this budget. And as I had said before, with social services, we could have funded more, but we were trying to be aware of the money. And there's a lot of things in this budget that was needed. And of course, there's a lot of things in this budget that we have to put in, like caseloads and all of those kinds of things as well. Many of you asked about MHIT, and we did restore that funding, which was 16 million before, but we restored 10 million of that as well. Last time I stood before you, I mentioned diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as critical race theory, and that I was somewhat offended by having that as a proviso in the budget. I will say to you that I still believe it should not have been in the budget, but language was amended and it was approved by the universities. And for that, I am very thankful as far as the universities are concerned. I do think the governor's budget should have been given a higher priority, but nevertheless, we were able to see exactly what the governor had put in, and we acted accordingly. There are some areas that I think we could have done better in, and I'll only mention two at this time, and that would have been the state employees' pay. I think we could have done better in that area. And again, with special education, many of you have said to me, why did the House give in? We had 10 million and we agreed to 6. Well, when you're negotiating, there's lots of other things that come into play at the same time. I will say the experience was wonderful. And, you know, from a social services standpoint, I think we met some of the needs of people in Kansas as well. And I think people are always, to a certain degree, not pleased with a budget. But I think in so many areas, we tried to meet those needs. And at the same time, remember that we are spending more than we're taking in. So for that reason, I think we're cautious. But I think we also have to remember the needs of our constituents in this state are great. We can't meet them all, but I think we have to do the best we can in those areas so that people know we value them in Kansas, we care about them, and we try to do the things that they want us to do, but it's not always possible. I said before that I will support the budget because I am part of appropriations, part of the process, helped to get some of the needs that people wanted, restore money that was taken. And I'm still standing before you very grateful that I serve in the legislature. that I may disagree with a lot of the things that we do, but I am elected to represent my constituents. I do the best job I can. I am honored, and I know my mom and dad would be very proud that I'm trying to make a difference in this state. And we all make a difference the way we see it, and sometimes we see it totally different. But you have to do the best job you can. I have to be able to sleep at night knowing that I am giving all I can to my constituents, and it's an honor for them to send me here every year. So when you look at this budget, I think each of you have to decide for yourselves how you want to vote for it. I am comfortable knowing that probably there was things we could have done differently, but this is our budget. And there's some people in this state will be very happy with it and others will not. But we should always keep in mind, we can always do better. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Slingenschiepen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Inflation right now sits at 2.4% as of February of 2026. A 1% raise for over 40,000 state employees. Let's think about that for a minute. Gas prices stand around $3.15 a gallon right now, up $1 from a month ago. Lots of state employees in this state drive thousands upon thousands of miles to get to and from work. 1% is not only not helpful, it is an insult. These are our constituents. State employees served and kept showing up during the pandemic. Some lost their lives because of the pandemic, especially those serving in 24/7 facilities. This is how we want to reward them? Again and again in our committees, the number one thing we hear from our agencies is how difficult it is to retain good staff. We pass bills here while we're together during session. Who is going to turn those bills into what it is that we wish to have done out there? Our state employees do. It's a bad look. Whether or not we as a body voted for our own raise, we're going to get one of 4% this year, and their salaries are going to increase by 1%, which until the last round of conference negotiations was not supported by the House at all. That pittance came from the Senate. It's unjust and it's unfair. This is about doing the right thing. 1% isn't right. I think we all know this. These folks are our constituents, and they work hard for us. We owe them for their service, and we must ensure that they can keep working for us and for the citizens of our great state. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Hoy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I did vote for the House budget when we moved it out of this body, but I'm not going to be able to support the budget now, and I'll explain why. So the House position on, when it comes to something really important to me, on education funding, we had 36.5 million compared to 6 million on a few items between the House and the Senate. So on special education funding, on the Blueprint for Literacy, Safe and Secure Schools grants, and the mental health intervention teams. We did not take the House position on any of those items, though some of them were negotiated in there. We weren't at zero like the Senate was on some of these. So I could live with that partial funding for Blueprint, Safe and Secures, and mental health intervention teams. But I cannot live with the $6 million for special education funding. I really think we should have fought hard for the House position on that. So on those items, we're now down $15.3 million from what the budget that I voted for was. So I am going to be opposing this. I think we should be doing better for special education funding. And I did also want to just address something that I've learned a little bit more about. If you are interested in looking at it, the best place to find it is in our bill, HB 2434, page 121, line 10. This is a proviso about vaccines. And the proviso says we have to implement the CDC recommendations for KDHE for fiscal year 2027. Any monies that they spend, they have to implement. They must be this schedule, which I would add the CDC adopted this schedule after a presidential memorandum, and it did not go through the regular CDC panel approval process. And the information that we got back in committee, it's in our emails for appropriations committee members. To implement the provisions of the vaccine proviso for fiscal year 2027, KDHE would remove Hep A, Hep B, and meningococcal A, C, W, Y from the school requirements. And then I think this part's really important. And move 1 dose of the HPV vaccine to the requirements. The way this is written, KDHE does not currently have the HPV vaccine as a requirement to attend schools. But the way, what the CDC did, which this part of it's actually a good thing if you ask me, instead of having to get 2 doses of HPV, they're only gonna have to get 1. It's more effective, and then you only have to go 1 time. But based on the way it's written, we're actually adding a new vaccine as well as removing vaccines from the school requirements. So I'm not sure if that was the intent. I just think that we need to stick with the recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics. So I wasn't sure if people were aware this was in there, and just wanted to provide a little bit more information. And I appreciate your attention, and I will be opposing this budget, unfortunately. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Owsley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and truly thank you to our conference committee. I know they put in hours, but I want to elaborate upon the special education funding in here a little bit more. I feel like the last couple of years in K-12 budget, we've done good work and we put out a good product, and that product has not been reflected in our final budget. We've talked about property tax relief in here extensively, and I'm sure we're not done yet. But I'd like to point out that in 2025, $305 million on top of statutory required transfers from the local option budget was also going in to backfill our obligation as a state for SPED funding. We know it's not an option for school districts. It's mandatory. In K-12 budget, we had a roundtable discussion with school board members from across the state, and we had a rather robust discussion, and we asked them their concerns. The number one concern across the state was special education funding. You know, from big district to large district, they're backfilling what should be our obligation. The number 2 item that came up was the cell phone bill ban, and what an unfunded mandate it was going to be and a strip of local control. Earlier this year, we passed the bathroom bill, which is also an unfunded mandate upon our schools. The cell phone bill alone and the bathroom bill alone, on top of the underfunding of SPED, is crippling to our districts. The Education Conference Committee is still meeting and has, I think, 5 reports to put out. I have no doubt there will be unfunded mandates that come in there. Currently, we're at 67.2% reimbursement for our special education obligation. The passage of $6 million will lower that to 65.2%. $6 million was never the House position. You know, we waited on the Senate tonight to twist arms and get this budget over to us. The contention over there was $10 million of ARPA one-time funds that's in an EcoDevo project that's housed within Senate Bill 181 that's also in this budget. We had an opportunity here, I'm not sure it would have mattered today, to take that 10 million and add it to sped to try to make up the shortcomings. If we were to do that, there'd be no maintenance of effort next year as it's one-time funding. I think we should send this back to conference or make the motion to not adopt the CCR on 2513. But given the hour and out of the respect for everybody's time, I'm not gonna make that substitute motion. But I think we owe it to the hundreds of emails, the parents, the requests of the USDs, the state board, the teachers, to do better. And I think we can do better than this. I will be a no on 2513. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Carmichael.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I notice it is now beyond the bewitching hour of midnight, and a certain motion comes to immediate mind that would be in order right now. I'm not going to make the motion right now. As I listen to my colleagues explain flaw after flaw in this budget, it occurs to me that this is a terrible misallocation of taxpayers' money. We're spending money on the wrong things in so many instances. I complained last year about the state 911 board receiving money that it didn't ask for. I'm told that that may be in the budget again. It seems to me that folks who have lobbyists, vendors with a product to sell, money to hire a lobbyist, they get their way around here. But when it comes to children, special needs, state employees, I can go on and on and on down the list. This is absolutely wrong, what we're doing, and I think most of us likely know that. To digress, though, to a matter that is of importance to some of my constituents, Tip O'Neill said that all politics is local. And it may surprise many of you to know that the most frequent inquiries, requests, pleas, and demands that I have received from my constituents, which may be very different from yours, have to do with animal welfare and public broadcasting. So if the chair could take a moment, I don't propose to ask about animal welfare, but I know the chair and I both share some concern about public broadcasting. Could you inform me so I can inform my constituents what we did about funding for public broadcasting in Kansas in this budget?
Well, when House Bill 2434 passed out of appropriations and also off of the floor here in the House, we had added $300,000 more to the 500,000 that we have been doing for quite some time. I think there was an exception in fiscal year 2025 where it went to 700,000. But then last year in 26, it went back to 5. And then in the budget committee, they put it up to 800,000. When the Senate was debating their particular bill, they had only 500,000. And then there was a floor amendment to pull all of that out. And then also some of the money for the Creative Arts Commission and fund, I don't know exact title of it, but it was an IDD transportation service in Sedgwick County. So we had a position of the House of 800,000, then $1 million because they extracted the 2 in the Senate to pay for this new item, and only in one county, and I know it's your home county. I'm not trying to belabor that.
I'm just trying to learn.
And then during the negotiations, we have the 800,000. They took the House position of the 800,000 for public broadcasting.
So the number that I can report back to my constituents is 800,000 this year.
Yes.
And your answer was yes, so folks can hear it. That's okay. Or come on up.
Yes, that's correct.
And as compared with last year, do you recall where that would be? Where were we last year? We're at 800,000 this year,
500,000
$300,000.
increase from the Economic Development Initiatives Fund.
Okay. I appreciate your assistance. I ought to be gratified with that, but you know it's not enough. But there's so much that's not enough. We have so many resources in this state. And my governor may not like what I'm about to say, but I think we're becoming out of balance with the amount of money that we put away in rainy day funds or budget stabilization funds. Those types of reserves are certainly necessary and prudent, but they also represent generational transfers of wealth. What it really means is that taxpayers this year and last year and the year before are paying in taxes that sadly I fear may be frittered away by a new governor and a different legislature. I think we're making some terribly bad mistakes here, and I cannot support this budget. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I ask the carrier a question?
Yes?
Okay, on page 19, it talks about the World Cup proviso. And I've watched 5 different updates, committee updates on FIFA, the $28 million. Interesting enough, one of those committee updates was actually to ag, which I kind of question why that would be. But a couple of people in the chamber have asked for accountability of this $28 million. I've been on a search for it for public safety money since the first of the year. Basically, kind of have given up because they aren't going to answer me. I'm not getting any answers. So I'm wanting to know, at what point will we know when will the money be spent and exactly how it will be spent? I know it will be after the fact. We won't be able to really do too much about it, but.
So we've had about, I think, at least 2 updates by KC 2026 and the Appropriations Committee on what their plan or their intended plans are for how they're going to administer the funds that we allocated a couple of years ago from ARPA. They have 2 allocations. One is 10, the other one is 18. They've utilized about almost half of the 10 million, and they will be using the rest of the 18 million by the time that the World Cup is ended. And then we'll have a report that is going to be given to us in regards to exactly what the expenditures were. Mainly it's going to be with the money that the state administered to them is mainly going to be into the transportation services because they also receive federal money in regards to security and safety.
Okay, thank you. Also, no, that's it, thanks. Also, additionally, a 1% pay raise for our employees is just a flat insult to the people that work for us every day and work with us and doesn't even begin to catch up with the cost of inflation. So we should all be embarrassed.
Seeing no further discussion, you may close.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I just kind of wanted to explain how that all transpired in both Senate Bill 315 and also House Bill 2434. We did not have any type of pay plan. And I think one of the previous speakers, they were correct when the Senate actually proposed, that would have been the next morning when we finally wrapped it all up. I'm trying to remember which day it was because we conferenced for about 4 or 5 days on this. And that was one of the last items that was brought forth to us. And I actually wanted to merge their position. I think it was, they said I didn't have one. No, I did. I wanted to merge their 1% increase with bringing up our under-market employees to market. And the Senate was not interested in that at all. And so the only thing that they proposed to us was the 1% pay increase. So I just wanted to kind of address that. I would like to now, before I close, I don't know if I'm going to be coming up here anymore this legislative session, but I want to personally thank my vice chair and also my ranking member for the work. I mean, you two are, I think we all three work very well together, and you two are extremely special to me. I want to thank all the budget chairs and also the budget committees for their hard work. I want to thank my chief of staff, Jeffrey, and my OA, Laverne, my committee assistant, Susan. And then last but not least, I mean, the work that the revisor's office and the research department has put in these last few days, not only for this particular conference committee report, but all the conference committee reports out there. I mean, they've put in diligent work and they should be commended for everything that they have done. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I close.
This constitutes final action on House Bill 2513. The clerk will open the roll. You may record your vote. Has every member had the opportunity to record their vote? The clerk will close the roll. Does any member desire to explain his or her vote? Does any member desire to change? For an explanation, the speaker recognizes Representative Sawyer Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I vote no on HB 2513. The fact that this budget gives the legislature a 4.4% pay increase when our constituents are struggling is unconscionable, and I cannot vote for it because that's gross. Thank you.
Any further explanation of votes? Does any member desire, Representative Featherston?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I do appreciate the increases in social service spending that are in this budget, but there is no way I can vote for it with the lack of special education funding that is in it. Our schools are in a crisis. We are hundreds of millions of dollars behind where we should be. In my county alone, we are $60 million down in special ed funding, which is the law. And I believe in following the law, and this body has not followed the law for over a decade. So if you believe in following the law that this body agreed to, I would vote no on this budget and increase funding for special education.
Any further explanation of votes? Does any member desire to change their vote? Representative Turk votes aye. Any further changes? Seeing none. With 67 having voted in favor and 53 against the passage of House Bill 2513, the same having received a constitutional majority, the bill is hereby declared passed. Clerk will record the vote. Speaker recognizes Representative Rogers for a motion to adopt the conference committee report on House Bill 2042. Delay my last. Are there announcements? Representative Adam Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tax Conference Committee will begin meeting. Just kidding. We will continue tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. in 112 North. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Agriculture Natural Resource Committee will not meet right now.
We'll meet at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning and 9 a.m. 281 North. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, Representative or Majority Leader Croft, for a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, I move the House adjourn until Friday, February 27th at 10 a.m.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're adjourned.
Friday, March 27th at 10 a.m.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Ayes have it. We're adjourned.